I begin with salutations to the Holy Mother, spiritual consort to Sri Ramakrishna. I cannot think of a personality who comes to my mind, who befits the word ideal woman. Her life has been exemplary. She has accepted what came her way, and she transformed it into something, or into the higher plane. So it's very, very important to see, what happened in her life. As a young girl, she worked very hard, to prepare food for her father, to carry to the fields, to take care of the cattle. So she was like any other ordinary little girl. But in those days, unfortunately, people were married off, very, very early. So she got married when she was almost like a little child, around 6 years. And she continued to stay with her parents until a time came when she actually went to meet her husband. So when she went there, as any young girl, what would be on her mind would be like any other young person growing up, I'm sure. But because of her spiritual background, when she reached there and she met her beloved husband, finally, she found him in a state so intoxicated with spirituality. For a young girl with aspirations to come to terms with something like that is phenomenal. And yet, with true dignity, she accepted, because she saw that he was in a state that no ordinary person could have reached. She accepted that she will have to live as a spiritual consort and change her thoughts so that she can live a life of perfection. It's not easy, isn't it? Because you plan something in your mind, and then when you are confronted with something else, you have to adapt to that, because as every true Indian or any other women elsewhere, mostly Indian women, you follow the traditions, that your culture and heritage have passed on to you for generations. And she went on to become the Holy Mother that the world looks up to. So very good afternoon to all of you. It's such a pleasure to be seeing you here. And when I see all of you, I see in you not the white clothes that you're wearing, but that spark of divinity that I would probably look up to in Holy Mother herself. And it is for us to realize that each one of us has that spark. It's just that if we think we are any lesser, then so be it. If we think that we are a spark of that divinity, so be it. And I urge you this afternoon that, let's realize that we are no less than what we have to become, and that is the ultimate unfolding of a spiritual path, for us. In today's world, does this really make sense? I can tell you that it does. With a lot of changes maybe to adapt to modern circumstances, which we must, because we are now living in an era. But how do we live our lives? That's very, very important. Do we get carried away and swayed by everything that's happening in the West? Or are we really going to step back and think and say, it's my life, forget being Indian, forget being Western, but I'm going to step back. I'm going to assess and see what's the best that can be, because this is just one life that I have. Can we not then start thinking about all the qualities that, women have showcased and have succeeded across the world, and say, yes, this is a global village, so we can just pick on all the best things that have happened anywhere in the world. It doesn't really matter. We have hordes of ladies who are Indian by origin, who have actually succeeded to an extent that is praiseworthy. You do have people elsewhere in the world too, and it's not as if that everybody has succeeded, has had it very, very easy. I'm here to drive just one point to you, that you never know what life has in store for you, right? Do any of us know? Can we predict? Could you predict your menu, as Swamiji said before lunch? However beautiful it was, he had really, probably selected the best of items, but you didn't know. But when it came, we make the most of it. What if one fine day you're somewhere and there is no lunch at all for you. Would you accept that with the same amount of equanimity? That's important. Because whatever is there, if you have a task at hand, that must be completed. Similarly, you have a goal in life. Come what may, you must reach that goal. And how do we reach that goal is far more important than reaching the goal itself. I repeat myself. You set a goal for yourself. It's very, very important to reach that goal. But far more important to me is how you reach that goal. The method is far more important. The values are far more important. Are you going to give in to corruption? Are you going to degrade yourself to do something that will let you go up the ladder? Are you going to let down your parents by forgetting the values that they have instilled in you? I think then, even if you succeed, you will still be a loser. It's not important to just succeed. It's important to succeed in the right manner. For that, I'd like to give you a few examples because I think it's important that we look at life. I begin with this lovely little video that I saw on Ink Talks. How many of you actually go through TED Talks and Ink Talks? I'm glad that some of you do. Because some of the most inspirational videos I have watched, and sometimes I think, the youngsters today are so inspiring because of the exposure. You can choose to get exposed to what is wrong, or you can choose to pick up that which is right. And I always watch these youngsters to see, how fast they've achieved what they have. So this beautiful story of a girl, Alicia, she was born, and just after she was born, when people were just about to celebrate, bad news came in. The doctor said that she had an illness and needed to undergo a bone marrow transplant. Okay? And they said her chances of survival are probably just not even a year, couple of months. So what should the parents do? To any mother, I think one of the happiest moments is that, when she delivers a newborn little child that's all her very own. And she will give up anything in her life, sacrifice anything for the sake of this child. I want you at this point to think about your own mothers. If you're seated here, and if you're achieving what you're achieving, just go back and be grateful for everything that your moms have done for you. Right from when you were a little baby, to the way they took care of you, to when you were growing up, to give up what they wanted because they wanted you to succeed, to put you on the right track, to counsel you. And suddenly, they don't seem to have any more goals. Their aspirations all revolve around you. I want my child to succeed, isn't it? It's a fact. So this particular mother, she must have gone through so much. The joy of having given birth, immediately being shattered by the illness that they were confronted with. So they went ahead with the transplant, and fortunately she survived. But she was crippled. Literally, she grew up on a wheelchair. And this little girl, as she grew and as she sat with her mother, they had these lovely conversations about life. And this girl in her talk says, I felt like I was on a shipwreck. I didn't know whether I was going to survive or whether I was going to drown. I always looked at the other children who were able to not just walk, but run around and play. And for every little child, that's a big dream, to be able to play, which is so normal. And she said, here I was. And as I grew up, she says, and here I was in this wheelchair, and it's so embarrassing. I had to depend on somebody to take me to the washroom. You know how delicate that can be for a growing girl, a teenager, how painful it can be. And how her morale would have been and how her confidence would have been shattered. So she suddenly decided that she's going to shake herself out of this self-pity. And she told herself, I'm probably thinking about the things that I do not have, but let me today change and start thinking about the things that I have to make myself happy. So she sat in front of a mirror and said, hey, I can smile. Isn't that wonderful? I can still sit up, which is great. I'm not on the bed all the time. So she started looking at all the positives. And what do? Did you get up this morning and thank the Lord for your 2 feet? Did you ever think of it? Did you ever think of, hey, I'm alive this morning? It's important. We have to be grateful to the Lord for that, but we take it for granted. It's in circumstances like this that these children actually showcase tremendous potential. So she decided that she's going to go to school. She couldn't go like every other kid, but she studied. She went through innumerable surgeries. And finally, she says, there are few things that I did. So it's natural that one would get depressed, but I want to keep myself happy. So she actually got herself a puppy. And she said, how lovely this is, because I have somebody to love, and this little puppy is with me all the time. How fortunate I am. She started counting all those little blessings. And it so happened that that little puppy also, after a point when she was trying to walk and she couldn't, the puppy would watch her even if the adults were not there. And the puppy also started, kind of limping about. The puppy stopped eating because it really loved the girl. And this girl felt so much for the puppy that she says, oh no, it's probably emulating me, and I've got to do something, and I've got to get myself out of this wheelchair. And so she did. And finally she stood there and gave this little talk, which the world can see forever. Her lungs again kind of collapsed. It started hardening. Unfortunately, this girl passed away at the age of 18. But everything that she saw in her life were the positives. She forgot about the negatives in life. All of us say that we have problems in life. I have a test on Monday, problem. I didn't get good marks, problem. I wanted to bunk that class, but I got caught by my lecturer, right? So many things, all the little things. I want that new dress, but my mom said not now. I want to wear this, but my teachers are not allowing me to wear it. And we think all these are big problems, and we get frustrated. But when you just grow up a little more, just grow out of these very basic empty things and look at what people have achieved, then you will say, my life is not for this outer vessel, as Swamiji was saying. I am made of better stuff, and I will make sure that my life is something of substance. Today, you are what you are. You're going to look beautiful. You think 70 years down the line, you're going to be like this? Are you going to be as beautiful? Why are you shaking your heads and saying no? I will say yes. I know I'm going to be far more beautiful at 70 than I am today, or what I was 20 years ago. Because my character, my contentment within, the spirituality that I develop will be glowing for sure. Why don't we look at life like that? Beauty is not in the exterior. It is not in the exterior. We get carried away. It's very, very important to be well groomed. When I was your age, I participated in a fashion show. I was the freshie princess of my college. That age, understood. But you do it with dignity. I always wore a sari when everybody was in the Western clothes. Not that I didn't wear Western clothes. At least today you're sitting in a salwar. Those days in colleges, we would wear Western clothes too. It was permitted but decent, right? But every time you're on stage and there are people to look up to you, it would be only a sari. And I do not think in this entire world that there's any other dress that is far more dignified than our own Indian sari, right? And you need to take, pride in our own culture. And people look up to you when you go abroad, when they see you wearing a sari, so it is important. So the outer, is not as important as your inside. And that is a realization that must come. So this girl says, try to find, things that can make you happy, things that you have. Never crib about that which you do not have, but look at what you have. Draw courage from that, draw happiness from that, and move on. Second point, live in the moment. I struggled a lot. I was in hospital. I was in pain. I do not know whether I will live. But I'm not going to live that life of doom. I'm going to find happiness. I'm going to play with my puppy. I'm going to learn to paint. I'm going to go for a photo shoot. And she did all of that. She went to college. She made friends finally. But you know what she said? Dream and never stop dreaming. And she says that every night I would visualize myself like I was walking on the streets of London with my friend. I would dream that I could dance at my cousin's wedding. All of you go for Sangeets, right? Yeah? So just like any other teenage girl, she said, I want to see myself dancing, at my cousin's wedding. I picturized and visualized what I'm going to wear. And every night I told myself that I will walk one day, and I will walk to college. And finally, out of a lot of struggle, she actually walked to college. The doctors have said it's an impossibility, but she made it happen. If you have the power within you to think that you can make it a reality, anything that you come across can be converted into something that is very, very positive, something that's very strong, and you will achieve it. Never think that I cannot do it, and never give up on it. Never give up on it, because nothing comes easy. A lot of hard work, patience, consistency is required. So that's very, very important. And I think that's the lesson that I draw from that girl. Don't you think it's amazing? Do we have such problems in life? I don't think so. Start counting your blessings, start counting your positives, and tell yourself that I'm grateful for what I have, and I'm going to achieve a lot more. I'll give you another example of somebody that I also look up to. And this is a lady that walked into my school years ago, saying that, can you, kind of circulate this, ma'am, and get your kids to, kind of give some money for these children. And I said, who are these children and what do you do? And her name is Sunita Rao. Please Google her and you will know what her life is all about. So we raised some funds and we gave it to those children, and believe me, what she told me literally brought tears to my eyes. She said, ma'am, I work with these children who are affected by HIV. They go through a lot of pain, and the money that you're going to give will probably buy them medicines so that they can die without pain. Can you imagine? I said, I work for children, I love children, I'm an educationist. And here, they're children who are dying, they don't even have education. So I said, fine, life is more important. When they see you have to make a choice between education and life, and these children just need to prolong their life a little bit without that pain. And so we kind of sponsored some money. But when she came to my office and I heard her story, believe me, I just didn't know how to react. Very, very young, as a teenager, she was gang raped by 8 people. Can you imagine how traumatic that was? And she says, what am I going to go and talk to people about, ma'am? If they know that their servant was raped, they will probably not even give her a job, because that's how society is all about. They look down upon you like as if it is your fault. But they do not understand that sometimes it is not our fault. We are just those young girls who have, had to go through this misfortune. And she says, the pain, the trauma, the hurt, and everything I had to deal with, because there wasn't much support. And it's very difficult to get these people, punished, and a whole lot of other things. But I think her concentration was, this is my life now. Can she erase it? No. So what do? Do you give up on life? Do you end your life? What do you do? So she came up with this saying that I will dedicate my life to rescuing these children from the red light areas, child abuse. So she goes, she fights with people, she rescues these girls. Recently, I think about 2 weeks ago, there was this WhatsApp message, and I don't know if any of you got it, of a father who was sending details about his daughter, our own Hyderabad airport. She was supposed to land. By the time he went, the girl was missing. And the WhatsApp was making its round to say, I cannot find my daughter. And it was Sunita and her team of people who somehow tracked her, and she was found in Goa, but in a very drugged state. People had kidnapped her, they're taken away, but at least she got rescued. So Sunita's life is about, my life is like this, mucked up, but I'm going to make the most of it so that I can bring a little joy into somebody else and make sure that their lives are not going to be as drab or dull or, bad as mine. So she decided to help them, and believe me, she's probably got the national 4th most coveted awards. She's an award winner, and it's a brilliant life. Because today, the number of people who are being put on the right track, the number of people that she's rescuing is phenomenal. Look at the courage that she's drawn. And, hats off to that lady, honestly. Are these just examples? So does the strength in a woman only come out when there is adversity? Are we trying to say that only when we have a problem do we realize this and then the strength of a woman comes out? Should we wait for that adversity? Obviously not. It's only to show you that there is that grit, there is that strength, there is that willpower, there is that capability within each one of us. Do you want to wait for an adversity to showcase your talent? Like a tea bag. Put it into hot water, only then the color comes out, right? You want to be like a tea bag? Or you just want to just spread your aroma, from now, so that you realize that I have all these potentials. Let me make the most of my life. Let me dedicate my life to a better and nobler cause. Let me think beyond myself, because I'm woman. I'm woman, and hence I can do it and do it better than anybody else. What do you say? Are you any less than anybody else? How many of you feel that you're less than probably your brothers or cousins or something like that who are boys? Some special treatment sometimes given to them that you don't get? Let's be honest. Yes. Many mothers, and the problem begins at Indian homes. If it's a boy, it's okay. If it's a girl, it's a different route. We've heard it all along. Now what do? Are you going to grow up to be a mom like that? So the first correction will begin with you. When you start a family and you are in charge of your family, please do not treat the boys as something special. They're just like any of us. So we do not. So you always tell a boy, you cannot cry. Girl, it's okay to cry. So they think they're very powerful and we think we're very weak. It's okay for men to cry. And I've seen a lot of men cry in my office. They actually come for help and a lot of them break down. I've patched up about 57 couples thanks to the chair that I sit in, that people sit across the table, and I'm willing to counsel them. And I always think that I begin because I see the tears in some child's eye in my school. The marks are falling, the behavior is going haywire, or the child has become withdrawn. And then when you actually get to know the story, you know what's happening at home. Then you call the parents, and then you try to counsel them. Quite often it works, because I begin with the positive thought that I have the power to make them patch up. And you've got to make them see, and everybody will come, and I make this very simple exercise. And this will come in handy for you tomorrow when you have a dilemma. Today, divorce has become commonplace. I think because people have stopped to think. They only react and act and then regret. So start thinking. So I always tell them, say, ma'am, she's like this, she's like this, she's like this. So is it make a list of all the things you do not like about your wife, or that she's not listening to you, or God knows whatever you have. And when they start penning it down, they actually feel how stupid it sounds. They think, and I say, come on. It's not an exam paper, but gosh, you want to leave your wife and you should at least know what's wrong with her. Why are you thinking so much? Then they start thinking. And I do the same with the wives. Ma'am, he's like this, he's like that, he's like that. Fine. You're getting rid of him. Your last 10 minutes, take revenge on him. Jot down everything that you don't like about him. When you read the list, I can only laugh. Because they're so petty. As petty as, it's not good for her back, but she wears high heels, ma'am. I don't know how many times I have to tell her. It can be as stupid as, I don't like the clothes to be dropped in the washroom on the floor after she bathes, because I like my bathroom to be dry and spick and span, and this woman would do just that. Somebody is coming a little late from office, the man has a doubt. When he comes late, the wife should not have a doubt. Okay? If there's some serious issues, you live in doubt. Rather than that, why don't you learn to trust? Trust each other and move along. So when we do this exercise, I always believe, what are we doing? What are we doing? Just like that girl I told you who started looking for the positives. People stop looking at the positives. So if they've made, let's say, a long list of 6 things that they don't like, I said, that's it. That's it. You've lived with this person for 10 long years. You have 2 beautiful children. And you don't like 5 to 6 things about the person. I said, what about the 94 that you haven't listed? Start looking at that. So it's a very practical solution for any problem. Let's start looking at life like that. Yeah? So I think that's very, very important, because this is what you're going to be facing, in the years to come. Any problem. Then look at other achievers. Who's the CEO of Pepsi? Right. Do you think she just became the CEO without any hardships? It's a lot that probably many of you will be facing in terms of balancing a home and balancing work. You need not feel guilty that you're working because you're not doing something at home. Or if you're sitting at home, don't think that you've done something great and the family is prospering just for you because of that. The thing or the disharmony and discord only comes when the balance is not achieved or it's not maintained. So if you're working and you're still able to manage your home, and if you're getting stressed out, what do? Make everybody else a little more responsible, accountable, delegate, and make them understand what you're going through, then people in the house will support you. Quite often the problem arises because we don't communicate this with the family. We take it for granted. In the office, you think, I must do this, because they're all outsiders. But when I come to the house, okay, he's just a husband, he's just a kid, he's just my daughter, you take them for granted. So no, when you're working and you got to do it, you got to get the communication channels right, and then make sure that you can do it. And I think women are the most powerful creatures on this planet, and they deserve to be worshipped, and the world will never be what it is if it wasn't for us. Understand that. So make yourself worthy of all the good things that you could think of, and never in your life give up anything that your parents have instilled in you in terms of values. Never give up anything that you've learned here in your program, because they're trying to tell you of what is good and how to lead your life, how to think beyond yourself, and how to live a life for others as well, and understand the importance of what goes within. And how do you learn that how do you make the transformation happen is very, very important. I'm going to end now with a very, very simple story that I feel that I should share with you all. When I got married, I was married into a very, very rich family. There were no women who worked in the family. Much that I had my education behind me and wanted to do something, there was no opportunity. Because nobody worked. There was no necessity to work, maybe for the next 3 generations. But then sometimes you always feel that you want to do something with your life, and you want to make something of it. So somewhere at the back of my mind, I just felt I was doing what I was doing a good job of it. But I always felt my life cannot just go wasted like this. I must think of something better. And so I got an opportunity to work in a school to help out a friend of mine who didn't have children. And when I went there, I realized that the kind of teaching in the town was not good enough. We understand that communication is the key to success. And I said, how am I going to make people understand this? And this was like way back. So I said, let me begin with the teachers first, and then go on to the students. And then we did some exciting things of let's put the textbooks away and do some fun learning, which was revolutionary in those days. And over and above that, I said, to kind of connect to the children, let's start doing some social service. And I quickly realized that my happiness came from there, right? And so when my friend came back, I was a temporary principal, like a proxy principal for 3 months. So I was waiting for her to go there for her IVF, and the moment she's pregnant, she's going to come back after the treatment, and I'm going to go back home. But I just loved what I was doing. So when she came back, she said, why don't you continue for a while? And so I did. Life had it that I was in my late 30s and I lost my husband. And at that point, I was so dazed, I just didn't know what to do. I said, it's not the done thing, I'm not going back to work, because I wasn't in a frame of mind. How am I going to face the children? How am I going to face the parents? It's going to be very, very hard. And in a town, you have all these funny things that you see in Telugu movies, what they do to a little widow. I just hated those scenes. And I was so paranoid because I came from a different educated background, but the town was like that. So I didn't know what they were going to do with me. So one day when I sat and I had tears in my eyes, but I wanted to fight it out somehow. That my mother came and she just put her hand around me. And she said, just do what you think is right. I'm there with you. And that's it. I just decided that I'm going to wear my bindi, because the bindi didn't come after I got married, right? I wore it as an Indian girl right from when I was young. The town could not take something like that. But I said, I have my mother behind me, and I have the strength within me to say that I am not doing something wrong. I did not want the attention from all the men around me because that's like an indication that, oh, she's a widow. I didn't want that attention. I just wanted to be like anybody else. It was an internal fight to fight society, but I just decided to go ahead and do it. I went back to school. I started working harder. It so happened that I moved to Hyderabad, and I realized that, in a city you need a lot more qualifications, which I didn't have an opportunity. So while working, I had to catch up with 5 degrees. Okay, I had to do a B.Ed, which was a mandatory thing for a principal to have. And I told the management I've enrolled, please give me 6 months' time. The first examination, and I'm not lying, when I went, my hand was shaking so much because I was studying after so long. I had to literally use my left hand to hold my hand from not shivering. Your teachers would have told you, right, if your handwriting is bad, you know how the corrections are going to be. I had a perfect handwriting, but life was so hard on me. I knew everything that I had to write, but my hand was literally shaking. For a moment, I paused, and for 10 minutes, I meditated. Brought the confidence back, and I said, I can recollect everything, and I'm fine, and I'm going to do great. I did it and got a distinction. Then, I told myself, I'm in a line where people look up to me. I have teachers who are more qualified. They were all listening to me because my ideas were different. But tomorrow, I will be questioned in this line, so what should I do? So I enrolled for a master's as well. And it was hard because I was learning Western philosophy, Indian philosophy, epistemology, logic. I was trying to even figure out what those subjects were. And I was working, and I had 2 little kids to take care of all alone. So I said, I have to do it all, and I have to be perfect because at school, I was told by my management, you make it click, or in 3 months, we're going to shut the school and convert it to a club or a hotel. I was like, oh my God. I've got to slog it out and prove to them that this is going to be one of the best schools. So my day would begin at 3:30 in the morning because I didn't want to see my children. I didn't want my children to see me sitting and studying. I had to give them time. So I would get up at 3:30, study till 5 o'clock. And 5 o'clock, even through college, I wasn't too much of the mugging types. I would understand and get ahead with the exams. I can't study for more than that, and I don't think I've ever studied for an hour at a stretch in my life, but this was a necessity. So I got down to doing that, and 5 to 5:45 would be my time for the walk. Then I would do some meditation, and then get down to, my coffee and newspaper for exactly 10 minutes. Time management was so critical and crucial. Then I had a cook, but I decided to cook for my children. I didn't want them to grow up and say, Mom, you didn't have the time for me. Because I think every kid thinks the mom is the best cook in the world, right? So I said, I don't want them to turn around and tell me that. So then I would cook. And 10 minutes before 8 o'clock, I would be in my school, much before anybody else. Then you run through the day, you run through the homework with your kids in the evening, you do their activities, and before you know, the day is gone. So catching up with 5 degrees was no joke. Catching up with a PhD was something that I thought, oh my God, this is the last lap, will it happen at all? And finally, after 6 years, I was able to conclude and submitted it. And, it took a year for them to actually process it because my topic was on 2 stalwarts, both Jiddu Krishnamurti and his philosophy on education and on Sri Aurobindo. And it was tough for them, so it got circulated to multiple universities. They took a year till they cleared it. And finally, I got the PhD just about 2 weeks ago. And the first place that I thought I should come from the university was this very sacred place that you're sitting here. And I came to meet Swamiji, and I wanted to share with him that finally it is over. And I guess he was the first person to even know it after my mother. Because this place has given me strength, it's given me confidence. And it's also given me the perspective of what one can achieve in life. And every time I come and I sit somewhere at the back in an audience to listen to a speech by anybody, it could be, I've always gone back richer. I've always felt richer because I'll take back at least a few points that I can start implementing in my life. Along with whatever I did with the degrees and bringing up the kids, Meridian also adopted 13 government schools. And believe me, the stories are what transforms you from within. Where the girls come up to me and they cry. Sometimes you get a call in the middle of the night. And they say, Amma, nak penli cheskovalani ledu. But reprodana, like early in the morning, there's a nishchitartham. And they've just told her 1 day before, and 2 days after that, she's getting married. Nak chadukolanundamma. Please do something. Please do something. If you go to the village and you want to talk to these people, the parents, the society, they will say no. If we stop the wedding now, she's never going to get married again. So we saw a couple of cases like this, and with tears in our eyes couldn't do much. So now we started another strategy that we bring the awareness much before that. And we tell them, and we also counsel the parents. And fortunately, many of the children today say that the age of marriage has actually moved up a little bit thanks to the awareness. And we're happy that all these girls, the stories that they will tell you. I want to study, but to go and join intermediate, it's not there in my village. I have to catch a bus. So I said, so, get into the bus and go and complete. But we don't realize that to get into the bus and to go to a college and study, they need a bus pass. Now the government gives some allowances, I'm told, but earlier they had to pay something like 600 rupees. And for not having 600 rupees, their future is changed. The course of their destiny is changed because of not having 600 bucks. Believe me, how many of you go to IMAX? How many of you have gone to the IMAX to watch some good movie? I love movies. Yes? Yeah. How much do you spend there? A ticket of a 150? A popcorn and something of another 100? You look into the cost of fuel or how you've got there and how you're getting back. That could change the destiny of one girl child. Sometimes I feel, think about these things. If you can give up that one movie in a year, I'm not saying give up movies. Give up one movie in a year and tell yourself, I'm able to change the course or the destiny of one girl in this country. What a beautiful feeling that is. Think about it. Small things and the bigger things will come. The stories that we see in the villages are so pathetic, I cannot tell you, because of lack of awareness. So get into a little bit of service, try to help out. Something as small as that can make a vast difference in someone's life. Never think that, I'm just a student. After I'm done, I'll get a very good job. When I get a job, I'll get a promotion. Then I'll get a big salary. Then I'll be settled. I don't know what that settling means. And after which I'll get more of a salary. And then I'll think of doing some service. Believe me, you never will. You can begin with 1 rupee, but begin now. On that note, I'd like to just infuse that power and that positivity in you. Each one of you to tell yourself, I am a powerhouse of all the strength that can be. I can choose to become whatever I want to be. I will succeed and never let go of my goal. But one thing I'll keep in my mind forever is, far more important than the goal is how I actually reach there, how I achieve my goal. Thank you.